Hey guys, thank you again for joining us for another exciting episode of Yomo. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. So today we are concluding part three of the book Stroke of Genius by Jill Bolty Taylor. We have a new guest. We haven't seen for a long time, Snow. Welcome, Snow, and looking forward to this reflection.
Welcome back. It's been a while, and we missed you, and we're looking forward to a fun conversation. Let's catch you up on this book, just what it's about. Yeah. It's this book called My Stroke of Insight. It's written by this brain scientist, Harvard-trained, named Jill Bolty Taylor. What this book is about is she had a stroke. She was a Harvard-trained brain scientist, so she studied the brain. She was like in her late 30s. She had a massive stroke on the left side of her brain, and lost all function of her left side of her brain. For the next 8 years, she spent like trying to regain her full brain functionality. But this book was her writing about her experience when she had the stroke, what she was feeling, because she couldn't talk. When you lose your left brain functionality, it's like all of your writing, your language, your linearity, your rationality, like all those things, right, is what was controlled on the left side of her brain. So she spent the next 8 years basically trying to get that functionality back, but at the same time, just using her right side of her brain for the most part. And when she got her language back, she then wrote this book about her whole experience of what it was like to basically lose half of your brain, and then like what it was like to have this other half and how that felt, and then what it was like to have this come back, and then now how she lives her life going forward with her brain today. So it's a really, really interesting book. It's called My Stroke of Insight. The reflection that we're going to talk about tonight is called Why Not Both? So this is a bit of joke that Snow, you actually might get this joke, but this is like an inside joke with myself that the title. So do you remember those? You remember IUPUI, right?
Yeah. Wait. Oh yeah, the college, right?
So just so you know, there's this college in Indianapolis called IUPUI, meaning it's Indiana University, Purdue University, and Indianapolis. So they took the two largest land grant institutions in Indiana. They built a campus in downtown Indianapolis called IUPUI. It was a joint effort between IU, Purdue, and Indianapolis. So some genius back when I was in high school, this used to be like a big commuter college. Basically, all the kids that didn't move away from whatever, like they would go to IUPUI, but now it's actually become like a pretty legit school. I mean, they actually have like IU School of Medicine's there, and their law school is there. Anyway, it's pretty much an IU campus. It doesn't really have much Purdue stuff. Some genius back in the day, marketer, that was the slogan, IUPUI, why not both? And that was it. I just remember these commercials all the time when I was a kid, like IU, Purdue, why not both? And so that was like an inside joke but for myself. But it's the reflection. This reflection is about using both sides of your brain, right? As I was saying before when we were talking about this book, Jill Bolty Taylor, the author, lost 100% of her functionality of the left side of her brain, meaning like math, language, rationality, science, linearity, time, all these functionalities, she had none. But what she did have was full functionality of the right side of her brain. And she talked about this through her writing when she came back online, like how much she loved just having the right side of functionality of her brain, because it was like she was free. She was like, I'm floating. She said she felt like she was a fluid the whole time. She said she felt like she achieved nirvana, meaning like in Buddhist world, what nirvana is, I guess, is really tapping into that connectedness, oneness, whatever that is, right? But she just was like, I could feel people's energy, but I couldn't speak, I couldn't communicate, I couldn't do anything, but I just felt like I was one with the universe at all times, right? And True and I were talking about this the other night. It's really like kind of similar to taking like psilocybin or like mushrooms or psychedelics or something like that, where it unlocks that right side of your brain. And that's the reason why it's so appealing to people, because we're so left brain dominated in our society. I mean, before this whole journey with Amelia, I can probably say that I was 95/5 left brained, dominant in my life, just in general. The things that I cared about, the stuff that I worried about, like goals and achievements and time and promotions and next task. I was very task driven. I categorized everybody. I used to disc profile to every single person that I talked to evaluate where they fell into a certain profile. My level of right-sided brain use and functionality before this journey, I would probably say was like 5% max, maybe. I mean, my creativity, imagination, just connectedness to the world or whatever was like basically on damn near life support. Through this whole journey, like I've learned slowly but surely as we've, done book after book after book and reflection after reflection, and then, applied these things to the world for my own self, like my creativity and my oneness and connectedness with the universe, and through books like Entangled Life, or How to Change Your Mind about, psychedelics with Michael Pollan, or The Botany of Desire by Michael Pollan, books about guns, germs, and seals, or Sapiens, or The Inner Life of Animals, or whatever, like you name it. Like so many different books on this journey have slowly, that Amelia and I have been reading together, have slowly been reconnecting my brain, and the imagination side of me and the creativity side of me is slowly coming back together, where I feel like I'm now more toward a balanced state, right? And that's really what I want to be for the rest of my life. Is I want to use both sides of my brain as much as I can. I don't want to be in nirvana land and floating around in fluidity all the time. But even though she loved it, I want to still be connected and tethered to the world and have goals and work toward things if we want to work toward things. But at the same time, I like habits and I like that stuff. But at the same time, I really enjoy the more connectedness, creativity, imagination, and oneness, with everybody these days too. So I'm trying really hard to use both sides of my brain for the rest of my days. And obviously that's what Clubbing is really about, is trying to, why not both, right? Like finding balance between both sides of the capacities of what humanity is capable of. And that's where I'm going for today. So I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but I'm always going to continue to strive to do that. For me, it's no longer a question of this is the way for me to stay on my path toward purpose, is to try to make sure that I'm using all of my capabilities as much as I possibly can in a balanced sense. The question I can pose for you all is, what might your life look like if you tilted the balance of your thinking toward a more balanced state? Like where are you at today, maybe, and where do you want to be? And like, what would that look like if you were a little bit more balanced and connected, using right side and left side all the time? So anyway, I'll pause there. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts.
Tree, what are your thoughts?
I've been talking with Chris for the past 2 days, and I think having the balance is always the key. And I think this is the essence of what Clubbing is about, because it's always about that combination of both sides. You can't have one without the other. Because just like before we got onto this podcast, Chris is talking about having a blast, right? The thing is, he's having a blast. But imagine he has a blast, but he can't tell me about it, right? So there's something for him is missing. So I think, having to not have your left brain, you are untethered from the world. But at the same time, you may feel like that's nirvana, but that isn't really nirvana. Nirvana to me is you go out there and you found this elixir. But the joy of it is the experience of finding the elixir, but also the combination of taking it back and sharing with the people who understand what that means. We're talking about that hero's journey. We're talking about the remember that book where you talk about the old man and the boy with the whale or the fish when he right?
The Hemingway book, The
Right.
Old Man in the Sea. Yeah.
Right. So if you think about it, he battled this fish, right? It's an epic battle, but he can't tell the boy about it because essentially
He's not there.
he's not
He was
there,
on his own.
and,
Yeah.
and the fish is carried back. It's no longer. I mean, it got eaten away by the other fish. But the point is that when the question I asked before is, if you are able to make $1 trillion, but you can't tell anyone about it, how would you feel? And to me, that's probably the worst punishment. So to have one but not the other is actually worse than having 85-15 or 95-5, right? Or even the opposite of it. So for me, the balance is always the key. So to think about it, on your left brain, we have all this logic. That basically are our constraints. Those are rules. We basically tether ourselves to some kind of anchor. We anchor ourselves. To me, I think about having the ability to still be anchored to something that you care about or something that you want to go back to. You can give that the right brain, the creativity path of it a little bit more leadway, a more longer chain to kind of not float around. You want to experience the world, and maybe you get on this air balloon, but you don't want to be completely disconnected and fly into outer space. You want to have some kind
You don't want to be a psycho. Like, you don't want to be schizophrenic and like in a mental hospital just walking around all day long, throwing poop in the air and going, wow, it's all one. You don't want to be the person that's like so tethered to their habits where they're like,
because you tell yourself on a short leash to some kind of anger, some kind of boulder, right? You're not experiencing anything. You're not going anywhere. And what we discover through this journey is human has two desires. One is the exploration and the discovery of it. And the second one is the need to share the discovery. So it's the hero's journey all over again. You go out there, you struggle, you experience, you find this elixir. But then that's not complete. Because if you find the elixir, you have the fountain of youth or whatever it is you want, the holy grail, whatever you call it. If you cannot share it, then you feel like you're not complete, you're half done. And so for anyone to have the right life that give them, hey, I have my feeling life and I am satisfied. You need to have both and to be in a balance of how much you need, depending on the type of people that make up who you are. You could be 40-60 or somebody 60-40. So whatever that is, but you still have to strike a balance. And at the end of the day, it's about balance between the rules and the normalcy versus the newness and the discovery of something. Because even for a introvert like me and a extremely, left brain dominated kind of person, I feel more enjoyable when I'm trying to be more creative. For me, it's like I don't want to be like even 95%, monotonous. Even that becomes, very boring for a person like me. And so I think having the balance is always the key. And to me, never ever trying to give up one thing for the other, and never ever trying to say, hey, I'm in this corner. Versus extremity is never good. You can't go to the extreme and not fall off the balance beam, whatever. You have to
Right.
be in the center, whatever that the center of gravity, whatever that is. You
Yeah.
find that, and that's where I think that would be the the real nirvana. The other nirvana
I
is like,
agree.
yeah, you feel like, let's say you're going, hey, I'm going to take some shroom and I'm going to experience this thing. But the thing is, you always want to come back. You don't want to say, hey, I'm going to experience it. I don't think anyone wants to stay there because it feels good, but I still need to go and tell somebody.
Just go work, go do something that you love to do, like get in that flow, get in the deep work, like Snow was talking about right before this, the from a book that he was sharing. It's that's important too. Like it's really important to do them both. Snow, I'd love to get your thoughts on like the whole left brain dominated society. Like, I mean, I don't know if you feel that way, but it's like everything feels so tethered, logical, time, math, science. Like, I mean, everything's
It's
got a
so
point.
constrained. It's so
Right.
constrained. You have to be at work at 9. You have to do this. You have to have this quota. You have to do this QBR or whatever that thing is.
Right.
So what's the point? Who put a gun to your head and make you do all that? Like that's what I'm saying is a lot of the rules we constrain ourselves with on are just basically just made up. We just made them up as we go, and we stick to it. Like, hey, this is like life and death. This is the end of the world, whatever. And so, to me, this is what we've been trending towards, and it becomes a more like a jail cell for us because for us, we're trying to break out of it. It becomes so much that it creates so much pressure for us. When you're talking about, because you look at people today, not only in America but in other countries as well, everybody is feel pressure to do certain things, to follow the rules, to do, and the stress level is way off the chart just because for whatever reason we want to put ourselves into that crucible and trying to survive it and trying to endure it for whatever reason. Everybody's talking about, rise, grind, and repeat. Everybody's talking about eating the frog. Tackle the biggest problem first or whatever. Thing is, who told? Why?
Right. Who cares? All right, I'd love to get your thoughts. What are you thinking about?
I think you guys are spot on just talking about this balance between the two sides of the brain and not wanting to stay lost and wander in wonderland or some state of nirvana. And like you guys, like Priya was talking about, on the hero's journey and coming back to tell your story. I mean, because I think a lot of that is, because we love to talk, and obviously we communicate. I think a big reason why we communicate is so that we do feel, heard or connected to people or loved or so. And that's the balance, though. I think about right now, I'm struggling a little bit with a relationship with my girlfriend, like being able to feel comfortable expressing my emotions, but she was sort of not comfortable with it. And so it's like, how do I strike that balance between talking about it in a way that's more comfortable for her, but also allows me to express both my emotional self and my logistical self in a way that she can actually hear it and not just react to it. So, but I think it's just interesting in this book, just how you're saying how Jill just sort of loved being in this Nirvana land and didn't care about the logistics. And
She did.
and you guys were going on about like, oh, society, we're just so logistical and have to get things done. And it's kind of one of those things. Yeah, it's like, to be able to be creative, to have that playhouse to play in, well, you needed that money to actually have the playhouse, so it's like maybe
And for
logistics
bills.
do almost have to like come
Keep the lights
first
on.
before you can be creative, and maybe that's just a thing of like kind of like, like growing up or something. And yet I'm sure you guys want your kids to feel like they can be free and play, but it can't just be that. It does have to be that balance. And I think you guys are right that we are just more, I mean, look at wherever funding in schools is usually cut in the arts and everything, because
who needs creativity time? Who needs, whatever? We need to learn
yeah,
math. We got to
yep.
learn science. We got to learn discipline and
Yet,
structure.
yet they're finding just more and more, just like, I mean, wherever you look at, like, a balanced life a good life doesn't exclude that, and
Right.
a decent life or a life doesn't have to have those things, but then you start getting more emotional distress and yada, yada, and all these other things that creep in. So if you aren't balanced, you're going to end up having that one spoke on the wheel that is eventually going to cause you to crash or something.
For sure. I mean, if you're on a spectrum and you're heavily weighed one side, you're going to fall off.
Yeah, and you're going to be trying to use a lot more energy just to stay straight and stay flow. But and it is work to stay balanced. I think it's something we all probably come back to. We can get in our head and be egotistical about something, and we find ourselves not being grounded around enough balance. I'm just thinking for myself. And that's why whether friends can keep us in check or just even your
nature.
own thoughts to try to keep you in check.
Or just nature, like going and taking a walk and seeing beautiful things in the world and going, wow, this is really beautiful, or traveling. Or I remember when you went to Africa right after we graduated, I was like, what the fuck is he doing? You just spent 4 years grinding away, getting a very prestigious degree. I'm like, get out and start your career or build your. And now I look back on it, I'm like, I'm sure you probably look back on that time of your life. You tell me, but like, I'm sure you explored so much. Right. I mean, what was that like? Were you just like wandering, exploring, being creative, seeing new things? Like, I mean, what, like, how did that make you feel? Like,
I mean, I was doing both. I mean, sure, I was exploring, but when I was being like logistical too, like studying my language books at night or whatever, just to learn Kiswahili better and
your water.
Yeah, it was shit.
Yeah, so, and where have you guys not been? Where have you guys not been balanced right now?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I was saying before Amelia and before this journey. I can't remember the last time I did a creative work, a creative project. Yes, I did some kind of creative work with my job every once in a while where I would create something or whatever. Learned it was always for my job, even when I was self-learning. It was always for a goal. I remember I told you guys this before, like every year at the end of the year, for the 4 or 5 years before Amelia was born, between Christmas and New Year's, I sat down and I rated myself on 9 dimensions of my life, like on a scale of 1 to 10. And then I would write down like all the things that I was happy with, all the things that I wasn't happy with, what action items I was going to do the coming year to increase my score, and then evaluate this along the way and make sure that I'm tracking it and put it somewhere where I can see it all the time or whatever. I mean, this is what I thought about. I wasn't necessarily doing that because I was trying to get a promotion or something like that, but I was doing it because I thought that that's what we needed to do. We needed to be goal driven. We need to be task driven. We need to be, I would categorize everybody that I met, immediately. I would just like Hogwarts them, I was like Harry Pottering them. I was like, it was like, hey, oh, Snow is this person. Like, this is what he is. This is all that, like, and it's like my imagination was just gone. I mean, like, I don't know that I've like dreamed of different, ideas or businesses or whatever. I mean, I had a couple of them that I worked on, and I dreamed about like wanting to get better at, but that was it. Like, I mean, it just wasn't a day-to-day life. I didn't have creativity in my day-to-day life is the point. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't have imagination in my day-to-day life. Every once in a while I would have like a cram session like you would do back in college or something like that, and then it would go on the back burner for the next 6 months or whatever, and then I would just tether myself to whatever society told me I needed to do next and work harder. And like, that sucks. It's a boring life. It's not even interesting,
Yeah, I think I having the logistic and I guess the rules of life. It's essential for survival, but it's also the thing that creates the misery and the smothering feeling. Because a lot of time when you have a goal is something you can quantify. So as long as you can quantify something and you miss the mark, you feel like, okay, I'm stressed out because I missed the mark. But if you can't quantify something, you can't really feel pressure or feel like, hey, I missed it. I know for sure I missed it. So on that creativity side, when you did your score of life through your 9 dimension, right? It stresses you out a little bit because you fall short of something, right? Because you didn't think about it. It wouldn't have give you a single ounce of pressure just because you didn't think about it, because you didn't track it. Because the tracking of itself is essential to survive in our society. But too much of it, it becomes a hindrance because to me, I feel like that's the biggest source of our stress and miseries is when we quantify and track it and say, hey, I want to make myself in this kind of category, this kind of score, and I tried my best and I couldn't get it, right? Then that creates the, hey, I did not meet my contract. I did not satisfy this mark or whatever it is. And that creates the lacking feeling of some sort. And that creates the negative emotions in our bodies that kind of produces the stress.
Yeah, I feel like a failure. You feel like a
But you
failure.
think about it, if you don't quantify it and you let it be, hey, this is just a ballpark, right? I'm pretty good. I'm in the ballpark, right? And so you basically met the requirement. You satisfy the requirement because you not say, hey, I have a 100 on my math test or whatever. I have an A or I have a passing grade. So you think about it, the mark, the goal that you put yourself, the more of it. Just like, hey, let's say you do a 70 or above, right? And you mark it, you say, hey, I passed, right? You feel happy because you passed, regardless if you make it 70. But if you say, hey, I have my goal set to be at a 95 and you get a 94, it's like you get pissed off and you like, this sucking it. And say, what did I miss? So you self-inflicted yourself with the stress and misery. You think about it, like somebody makes a 99 on a math test just because it could make 100. It creates the stress and misery for because you think about it, a 99 on the math test. And the reason why I said that is because that's what happens to me in calculus. In calculus, I always make a 99. I always miss something. And that frustrates the heck out of me. For nothing. Think about it. I make a 99 over and over and over again. I just could not make 100. But you think about a guy who's making a 50, he would love to have half of mine.
Right.
So you think about it, it's my perspective because I set some kind of goal,
arbitrary, stupid goal. I mean,
it's stupid, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, if you say, hey, I should be passing, so a 99 is great, a 71 is great, right? Because I satisfy to me.
Or just the goal of just to learn. Like your goal is just to learn. I learned something on this test, and that's great.
Whatever that goal is, give yourself some leeway, some kind of longer leash that anchors yourself to society and kind of give yourself some room to flow and explore and be nirvana at some state of your life. But I think quantifying it is the point I'm making. As long as you quantify the level of what you need to get to say, I become successful, then that will create misery. For example,
you said the word, but it's funny you just said the word success because, like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Exactly, because once you quantify success, meaning you say, hey, whatever the score that you have for your 9 dimension, let's say whatever score it is, let's say 100, 0 to 100, and say, I want, right now I'm at a 95, I want to be a 97. You got to a 90, 96, you still pissed off at yourself. That's why when you quantify success, you say success is something, because so it's not about what it is. Like, hey, what is success to somebody? Success to somebody is different for different people, but it's how you define it and how much room you give it. Because you say, hey, I want to be in the ballpark of it. Hey, maybe I want to be on the A range, 90 to 100. I'm in the range. Then I satisfy the condition for my goal. That means that in my mind, it's success because I set that as success. Because I can make a 70 on my math test, and to me, it's a success because it's a passing grade. So To me, success is defined by what you set as your goal. And if you can't meet the goal, then whatever this isn't a success. Because, like I say, if you set your goal to be 100 and you make it 9, you feel like a failure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's guaranteed you feel like a failure if you hit 99. I think it depends on your mindset.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because the thing
think
is, your mindset is what determines the goal. Because you are the one that's defining the goal. Yes, somebody is going to give you, let's say you're working and your boss gives you a quota. You took that as your goal. And that's what you're trying to achieve because you set it. And so that's the mindset. Because the mindset says, this is the mark. If I miss the mark by whatever, just like, hey, I promise I'll give you this report by Monday. And I get it to you by Monday afternoon, it's late. I feel bad.
To feel bad. I mean, if you don't meet a goal doesn't mean you have to feel bad. It's just a game, really. I think a goal or whatever, a mark is just something to aim at.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
If that's what it is, that's great, but that's not how we treat it as society.
Society is conditioning you to say you have to meet the mark because the thing is, yes, it depends on your mindset, and your mindset defines it loosely. Because if for me, it's like society tells you, hey, you need to have this kind of quota. You know, I have to have $100,000 in sale this month. And so if you hit the quota, then yes, you're going to make it and people are going to applaud you. They're going to reinforce that feeling. But if you have a mindset is, I don't really care about this job. And if you don't make 100,000, you're making 90,000, your mindset, because you as a person, even though there is a mark, but you don't really care about mark. So as far as you're concerned, your mark is, maybe 90 to 100 or 80 to 100. Your mark is loosely defined. Because for most people who are really stickler to the goal that was set for them, they have to meet it and surpass it.
You're going really deep and specific into like, this is all left brain world stuff, right? This is what we do to tether people to a process, whatever. Like, for instance, this whole book, this whole journey, the 365 reflections, right? If somebody had told me at the beginning of this, hey, Chris, you need to read this amount of books and write this many reflections, I would have been like, fuck you. Like, I'm not fucking doing that. Like, you can't tell me to do that. And you can't tell me if I don't achieve it that it's like, I'm some sort of a failure. I didn't ever write any of these until probably the last 20. And then I set my own arbitrary, stupid goal of like, I'm going to finish this for my daughter kind of thing. But like every single one of these, I just felt fun and free and creative, every day when I was able to write these things for myself and for my daughter and to do this for the reasons that I was doing it. It ended up into something bigger than this, right? And eventually, as True knows, as I was getting toward the last like couple weeks of this whole entire journey, where I was stressed about it, I was tired. I felt like I was running a marathon.
Yes, because you didn't find that goal. Right. Before, you did not define it. You say, hey, let's talk about the reflection and learn about it. So there's no goal. So that means that there's no constraint. There's nothing to meet. So if you don't have a goal, then you'll never have anything to compare against. So that's what I mean is when you do that, you are creating self-inflicted misery.
Yeah. I mean, it's awful. And you're missing the whole point of why you're even doing this stuff in the first place. Like if you're studying.
Because in the last week you were struggling to find, okay. The thing is you say, hey, I want to pick the best book. And you were stressing out about picking the best book. It's like, for the people, they don't care whatever books you're gonna write for your 364 is gonna be great. But for you set some kind of arbitrary agenda that no one cares about, and no one's gonna have the same opinion as you do because you say, hey, this book isn't great. Well, I don't think so. I don't think that it's not great. I think it's great because whatever book it is, we learn something, right? The audience gonna think it's great because no one determines it because we never had anything to compare against. So there's nothing, hey, oh, you have this book and this book is less as much as this book and this less as inside as that book. Only when you have something to compare against, this is when you create the pressure.
Yeah, it tilted. I tilted to an unbalanced state. I narrowed my window of books that I could choose. I narrowed my window of the reflections I wanted to write. I narrowed the time. I ramped up all of my reading levels. I spiked that last month or so. It was like I was literally running a marathon where you get that final kick and that wind when you can see the finish line. You're like, okay, I'm going to go harder. You can see it even on my Audible account, averaging like 60 hours a month to like, 80 that month. It's just like the highest I've ever done, or something along those lines. And it's like, why? Like, what does it matter? I'm still writing every day now. And now I'm like, hey, I wake up in the morning. I'm like, this is what I want to write about. I don't care. Like I'm on an ultra marathon now and I'm back to just having fun and doing what I want to do. And I don't give a shit what book it is or not. But I think the whole reason why I was even given this example is like, this is the whole why not both, right? Because when I was doing this for values and purpose and whatever, and I was able to exercise my creativity, I loved it. I was in heaven. When I was doing this because I had set some arbitrary, stupid goal, and now I was like pushing myself harder and harder and harder, everything tilted. Like my writing started to suffer because I was like, I don't even know what to write about anymore. I'm just trying to get something out of me to get to the finish line, and it was starting to become not fun. And like this is where the whole why not both comes into play. If you can figure out a way to balance your life around connecting to the world, being open, being creative, imaginative, but also at the same time having goals and having habits and things like that. Both of them have a ton of value, but like doing your habits for the right reasons, also at the same time doing your creativity work for the right reasons. They should all hopefully blend together, and then you have this perfect little mix of a balanced agenda, and that's when I feel like I've been the most happy in my life. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think you summed it up perfectly right there in that last minute.
Nice. Any other final thoughts for you guys? You guys want to read this book, Snow? It was really good. I really, really liked it. It was interesting as hell.
Yeah, I just downloaded it earlier today, so I'll be on it.
The last book I read, the Deep Work book, it does sound interesting. I think it's one of your favorite books was that Moonwalking with Einstein or something like that. That book has been referenced a couple of times.
Oh, that's such a good book. I think the biggest insight out of that one for me was you would think that people that were world memory champions would have the best rote memory, right? Yeah. Tell me, they don't do it at all. They use their creativity. They use their whole brain. It's the people that remember the best are the ones that can create elaborate visuals, imagine, because we think in stories, right? They make these incredible stories. And you're like,
I'm sure you remember the 10 different rooms. We have 5 different rooms and 10 things in each room or something like that.
This journey, this Yomo is like my memory palace. And that was my reflection for that one, because every time that I look at this book and I read this reflection, I literally go back to when I was finishing this book. I was in Tampa at this point in time. I was visiting one of my best friends down there. I remember that I was getting on a run while I was sweating my ass off. I remember these things. And then I remember what I remembered from it, right? I was like, oh yeah, I need to be more balanced in creativity time and find this stuff. This is the whole point of this whole thing. This is my memory palace that I then get to share with True. And then, obviously when you hop onto these things, like that's the whole point of all this, right? Is to find a way to create the visuals and to create the memories to really burn it into your brain to make it stick, because it doesn't stick if you just read something and it goes in one ear and out the other. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, somebody's like, oh yeah, I read that book about, what was that book? I don't remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
It's fun. Well, cool. Well, I'm looking forward to reading that book, by the way. True, any final thoughts for the night?
Yeah, I think another insight from what I've just said before is your happiness is essentially a contract you make with yourself. If you fulfill the contract, you feel happy.
That's a good one. That a lot, actually. I'm reading right now this book, 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson or whatever. Like, I don't like this guy at all. You guys,
Oh, I like him. Yeah, I read both his books.
Yeah, I used to like him. I like him anymore.
I'm not liking this book, but for whatever weird reason, there's something about this guy and his voice in particular that just like turned me off. One of his rules that I just finished today was compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Treat yourself like someone that you're responsible for helping. You got to care for yourself. You got to care more than other people, like about yourself. I do like that rule. I think that's really important because it's like, if you're not going to do this, nobody else is going to fucking do it for you. Like, I mean, no one is going to do it for you. Snow, if you.
So that's the thing for me. It's like, I've gone through this journey. I tend to stay away from goals and from rules, and any rules that there is, I tend to say, well, I don't like it. The other thing is, I used to like Peterson.
That's your rule.
I used to like Peterson, right? So for me, is be yourself, and if there's a rule, right? I mean, don't think of it as rule. I say, hey, this is my preference. And if you kind of follow that, I think it's gonna, I guess, alleviate a lot of the pressure you're feeling. Because for me, that's how I feel. Is in the beginning, it's like everything is about doing things according to plan and going through. Like I said, I hate being late because for whatever reason I tether myself to that rule, and I get so you know, what's the point? You know, I don't know why that's the case, but that's what I'm saying is, when Peterson has these rules in the beginning, when my mindset was different, I like that. But now, because of my newfound insight, I tend to not listen to Peterson's advice as much because, like I said, the 12 rules, the word rules, it just basically throws me off. Say, hell no, no, thank you. There's no rule for me. I just go to live the way I feel like. But the thing is, it's about this because you think about, I mean, I say, like, what's your ideal retirement like day to day looks like? The thing is, it's not about, oh, when I retire, I'll be on a yacht, I'll be on an island, whatever. It's like, if I want to go and do some hard work and get a sweat out and plant some trees or pave some roads or build a house or whatever, because I felt like it, that to me is fun. Or when I feel like I need to take a nap, I go take a nap. To me, that is fun. It's about the freedom to do what you need to do, want to do at the time when you're in the mood for it. So it's
each day. It's not. It can't be some like down the road. I get to go do this, or like I'm
right,
gonna work really hard to sacrifice today for
when you're
a
in the
marshmallow
mood for
tomorrow.
marshmallow, eat the
Right.
fucking marshmallow
Yeah, eat the
now.
marshmallow.
It's not like, oh, I like marshmallow. I'll wait for 5 days. I'll wait until I get home for dinner. For me, it's like, if I want a marshmallow right now, that's what I'm gonna get. Because if I feel like, oh, a marshmallow, and I'm doing something outside, I'm gonna drop it. I'm gonna go inside. I'm gonna get a marshmallow. I'm gonna eat it. So to me, that is what my rule is.
There you go.
How do you feel? What does your mood tells you to do, and fulfills it? When you fulfill this contract that your body set for yourself, you're gonna feel like you're satisfying it, and that's gonna give you this happy feeling. Otherwise, it creates this pressure. Oh, I have to wait, right? It may be little, but eventually it's gonna become big, and that's why people are stressed out because they're forcing this arbitrary rule. It's not even real. Yes, there's a certain rule you should, don't jump down from a 2-story window. That's a rule. Those rules apply, but the arbitrary, don't don't follow for the sake of following it.
Yeah.
Like, constrain yourself because you need to meet this 365 books or whatever, or go to church and, hey, you cannot be 5 minutes late or whatever. If you do that, you're just inflicting your misery onto yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good place to stop for the night. That's a good thought. It reminds me of the lobster that Jordan was talking about, where you lose your serotonin or whatever from when you fail, your brain chemistry changes or something like that. I did actually like that as well. Maybe Snow, you should come back if you like Jordan Peterson when I get that one done. Well, that was fun, guys. Thanks for joining us, and Snow, thanks for popping on. It's been a couple months.
Definitely, I'll pop on more frequent. So
it's good to see you.
Yeah, for sure.
It's your
summertime, man. So come join us. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, we will see you all tomorrow night.
Good night.
Hey, see you guys.